What's up, guys? Welcome into the Titans sector. If you're a Titans fan, this is the place to be. The takes are hot, the passion is real, and the opinions are sure to collide. My name is Van, and as always, I'm joined by my man Ghost over here. And before we get started on today's pod, I want to take a moment to remind everybody watching today to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. That helps our channel's growth a lot, so we certainly appreciate that. And share this content with a fellow Titans fan. We know you know them, and we'd love to meet them and get our content in front of them and just engage and have that interaction. So, with all that out of the way, thank you guys so much. Today, we're going to be talking about the Tennessee Titans 2026 Killer Instinct. Can the Titans regain what they have lost in a killer instinct, as they clearly didn't show that they had one in 2025? And how important is it for the growth of this Titans team in their evolution to regain that killer instinct? And maybe where can it come from? So, Ghost, with that in mind, let's talk about 2025. I mean, I hate to bring that up, but
it was hard. It was tough
Yeah.
to watch. And I think our team lacked that killer instinct from top to bottom. I think the coaching staff didn't have it. They weren't challenging the right plays. Obviously, they weren't prepared. The players kind of fed off of that in the wrong direction. And even when we were in like biting distance, we just could not close those games. It makes no sense. The games we did win were fluky. Our record's bad. And then the ones that we won, I think we only had one legitimate one, and it was still, we saw how Cam Ward reacted. The Browns game. Was it the Browns game where he got frustrated about the fourth quarter because it's just sloppy? And I do think once we get more of those Cam Ward types in there, that's going to change. I think the coaching staff is for the most part fixed, but 2025 was a tough watch, man. And I think one of the biggest things missing is that killer instinct.
Well, let's talk about those 2025 stats to bring them back up. And I think it's interesting you brought up that point about fluky. I mean, we literally beat the Browns. We beat a Kansas City Chiefs team without Patrick Mahomes. And then we had a crazy game against Arizona where the dude fumbles the ball on a runaway touchdown. And then an interception was fumbled into a touchdown.
Yeah. I was like, don't forget that one.
Yeah. We're all happy we got Carnell Tate, but we were like a Cardinals game away from the first overall pick, being able to do whatever we want to do.
Right.
But yeah, let's talk about this killer instinct mentality and what we're talking about specifically on the pod. So statistics, we're talking about trailing by 10 points or less going into the fourth quarter. Okay. So in 2025, the Tennessee Titans were trailing by 10 points or less going into the fourth quarter in 7 of their games. Now you might say that's not a huge percentage, but for this team that ended 3-14, I think those 7 games, if you look at them as swing games, that's a pretty big chunk. Now, in those 7 games, our record was 0-7. So we never turned the page trailing in the fourth quarter. We never came back and had that momentum swing for whatever reason. We all know, we watched the games. In 5 of those 7 games, we were only down by 7 points or less. Now, in NFL terms, we're talking a touchdown and a field goal for 10 points, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking a touchdown for 7 points. That's nothing. That's nothing in the NFL when we're talking about.
Well, and how many times did that coaching staff take the long field goal instead of being our record was so piss poor at that time?
Yeah.
And they decide to take that long field goal instead of going for it on 3rd and 4 or whatever it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And giving ourselves a chance to learn how to win. We didn't even get that chance. They would take that shot and it would either miss or they would get it, and then they would still be trailing. It's hard to close out those games if you're not utilizing a killer instinct to be aggressive in moments that it makes sense to be aggressive. So
100%. I think the thing you said there that stood out to me so much is the coaching staff. And it was always shocking watching it to me that as an interim and Mike McCoy, who was playing with house money, right, that he wouldn't at least hand that over to the team a little bit, knowing, the chances of him getting canned we're slim in 2025. They're not going to make that move.
Right.
It's like, what do you have to lose? And that's a phenomenal point. I mean, rethinking about that season, going back and watching those 50-plus yard field goals all the time, it was a little maddening. I'm sure it was to a lot of the players on that team too. Now, so with that in mind, right, with those statistics in mind, do you think that, you mentioned it earlier, but do you think, or maybe my right question would be, what type of an impact do you believe that Robert Saleh and his culture will have on that killer instinct on this Titans roster?
I mean, it can only be better than what it was. And so when we first got Callahan, it was so, at the time, I don't know that everybody felt this way. There was a little bit of like refreshing air of not seeing like Vrabel up on the stand.
Yeah.
Like, next question.
Yeah.
We don't talk about stuff. I never say anything that you want to hear. Like that old Mike Bralish thing. And it was like all of a sudden we had these word salad. Well, I mean, in hindsight, it was word salad from Brian Callahan. And it was
Very
just
true.
like, it was all just like, oh, football.
Yeah, it was new and wonderful.
We play things like rock, paper, scissors, shoot. And it's like, bro. And so now you get into Robert Saleh. And I feel like with Saleh, we're getting a happy medium. Not that there's any Brian Callahan and Robert Saleh, but you can tell he wants to win. He's an intense guy. You can tell he's got that kind of Vrabel aesthetic. Well, God, just like a big guy. He's a defensive mind, which is typically the grittier side of football a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I think that whole all gas, no brakes thing, I think we're going in the right direction. I think the people he brought on, like a White Cotton and people like that, they're coaching with the same intensity and dabble. And I think that started with Saleh. I think he had his guys and he went out and got them, because I think he also sees a key to this team is injecting a little bit of that killer instinct into them.
Yeah. And when you hear all gas, no brakes, does that make you think that you're checking up on a 3rd down and 7, and playing like a draw to the running back to be able to settle for a field goal? I mean, no. I don't hear that. That doesn't translate to me. Now, you mentioned White Cotton, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And I want to kind of throw in a couple more, because I'm thinking about it, right? Like, Saleh is a presence. And I think that's one thing that it comes across very clearly. He knows how to speak to the media, speak to the fans, to be able to eloquate his point, make his point, right? And also speak in layman's terms that we all understand. But it's very interesting to me how he brought in this coaching staff and built it, because he focused on not only relationships, but experience, right? So you have Aaron White Cotton on the defensive line, Carmen Brasillo on the offensive line, which I actually think, I'm pretty high on him. I know we came from the offensive line god of Bill Callahan, but I say that with sarcasm.
Don't even get me started on that, man.
But we got Brasillo, we got Gus Bradley, and we got Brian Dable, right? So, maybe it's a dumb question or point, but I really do think that in totality, that coaching staff from top all the way through, even to like Bones now, which we know what Bones is, I think that's a huge pendulum swing in the direction of a killer instinct mentality. Because like you said, all gas, no brakes. What is that? That's being aggressive, right? That's not waiting for the game to come to us. That's going and taking the game. So do you see that same translation through OTAs and what we've seen of these these new coaching members? Do you see that kind of translating in that way as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you mentioned Fassel. Obviously, he stuck around for a reason. And you could see last year that guy had boxes that he wanted checked. And his guys were checking those boxes. And I think that is that killer instinct that you're looking for. And with Saleh and White Cotton and all those guys, I think I have seen in OTAs the intensity that we have lacked for a very long time. So you hear stories about Vrabel like walking over injured players and stuff. which I think is hilarious, but also not cool. But but you know what I mean? It was like all football all the time, all business. And I think we all miss that about Vrabel. Vrabel brought us some good times, but I think as soon as we didn't have it, I think it was very, very, very clear how important it is. You know what I mean?
Very evident. Very evident. And the interesting part was too, let's do a little spoiler here, right? We were looking up some statistics on the old Titans teams before we came on and recorded. And, you know, maybe those Vrabel teams didn't always have the killer instinct like we kind of thought they did.
Yeah.
Or remembered that they did. In regards to comeback wins.
Surprised the heck out of me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, that's kind of one interesting point. But I do believe that I think we're seeing the right trend or the right direction with Robert Saleh. I know he had his Jets tenure. There's so much to be said there. But I think any level-headed NFL fan would see what he was handed on that team. And I think that this current Titans roster is better than anything he had in totality with the Jets. So anyway, I think that's trending in the right direction. Now, obviously, when you talk about killer instinct, you know, to me, one person I always think about in a different sport is Kobe Bryant. So is there anybody kind of springing it on you, but is there anybody that comes to mind in your history of watching, whether it be NFL or whatever, that you think embodies that killer instinct?
If I had to pick one, I mean, gee whiz. So I'm going to go outside of the sport. And I used to skateboard a lot. I design skateboards now. And a big guy, big impact on my life was Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
And I will never forget watching him in that tournament. And he was trying to hit the first 900 ever. He wrecked. And the competition was over. He wasn't going to win the competition. It already kind of screwed him over going for the 900. And he kept going until he landed. And that whole crowd cheered for him like he won that competition because he just, it was just it was so perfect. And I remember seeing that. And it's funny because I used that video when I was teaching my daughter to ride a bike because she was getting frustrated.
Oh, how cool.
She kept falling. And I watched that video with her. And it wasn't soon after she got those pedals going, man, and learned how to ride it. So
that's awesome.
That's that killer instinct, man. And it translates.
Yeah, you know, I remember that. Actually, I watched that as well, that Tony Hawk moment, because I used to love him, and I remember that very vividly. That was killer. The reason I bring up players is because we know that coaches can't do it by themselves. You know, they're calling the plays. You know, they're equipping the team with what they think they need. In hindsight, knowing that our record was 0-7 last year in those games, and I know we dealt with a lot, so we're going to kind of try to narrow this funnel down in my mind. In hindsight, if you had to look at the players on the field in 2025 and see what the product on the field was and what cost those games, moving to next season, this upcoming season, what side of the ball do you think the Titans need a bigger wake-up call on to be able to turn some of those L's into W's in 2026?
So for me, I'm probably going to say offense. And here's the why.
Okay.
When you watch that defense last year, I would say they outplayed their talent in a lot of cases. And what we saw on the other side of the ball is a sluggish running game in the first part of the season. Some rookies, growing pains, drops from the wide receivers. There was some misutilization of some players and stuff. I feel like Helm was underused or underutilized. But I think you saw a lot more mental errors on the offensive side of the ball that a killer instinct would require to not happen to come out of those times in a game. You know what I mean? How many times? So I'm going to point to a game that was just really fun to watch as a fan. And it was Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes in the playoffs. And do you remember that last few minutes of that game where they were trading touchdowns? And Josh Allen just came up a little bit short. But Patrick Mahomes ended up closing out the game. And I think we're saying it ad nauseum. That's the killer instinct. Like when you see that player like go and lace him up, put on his helmet and walk out there. Tom Brady, how many times did we see that?
Yeah.
And physically, Tom Brady was all mental. You know what I mean? The guy was like, that when he started out was like lanky and this and that, didn't have the strongest arm. He was accurate.
Slow. Yeah.
But man, he was an intense guy. If they were losing or if people around him weren't performing, I think he
demanded greatness.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think I see that in Cam Ward, especially after the Netflix documentary. So I would say offense, and I don't think that's a bad. Obviously, it's bad. We don't want it to happen. I don't think it's because of the players. I do think it trickled down from coaching and the culture and the building. I envision that or see that going in the right direction, and would like to see less of those mental errors in the future.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I would love to disagree just for the fact that we would have some sort of opposing views on this. But I agree. I mean, in reality, the defensive side of the ball with Denard Wilson in 2025, I think they outplayed their talent exactly like you said. I mean, we were playing with scrubs. We got rid of most of our secondary room. And I don't mean to say scrubs in a, demeaning way. I'm sure that probably comes across in that way. But guys that are definitely not known to be NFL starters, right? And picking up like the dude, Jalen Armour, whatever his name was, right? Off of the undrafted, but off the waiver wire.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately going in to start for us, and yet somehow that defense found a way to make this whole talking point possible. Our offense was terrible last year. And this whole talking point about we were only trailing by 10 points going in the fourth quarter or 7 points, that's because the defense, in my opinion, they were holding guard and standing guard as long as they could, getting shoved back out on the field after 3 and out.
They were downright fun to watch sometimes, that defense.
Sometimes they were.
It was literally, man, there was just some guys I was like, oh.
Right. Like you're almost like, who's this cat? I mean, even like, Jihad Ward is a great example. Jihad Ward was producing for us, and then we shipped him off to Baltimore knowing the rebuild was coming to this degree, I guess you would say, right? Borgonzi seeing the future and knowing what was best for the roster. And that's the right move. I think at the end of the day, it was the right move. But look at what we were left with. So I totally agree with you, man. I think the offensive side of the ball has to step up that game in regards to the killer mentality. And we'll talk about who needs to lead that in a second. But I think the whole side of the ball has to step up. The whole side of the ball, from the offensive line, right, to kind of engage. And that's where I hope Brasillo really instills something in them. Like we see White Cotton, who's gone viral on social media talking about, being a rabid raccoon. Yeah. I don't see a lot of Brasillo, but I hope he installs something in these guys like we had kind of in the Taylor Lewan days, the Ben Jones days, where they're saying, you don't get past this line, man. We take pride in what we do. Because that's where it all starts in the fourth quarter to give the rest of the guys a chance.
Those things hold some power with these players too. You probably remember my man catch no balls, all that stuff. That or the chain. We talked about the chain back in the when Javon Curse came back, and we had Kyle Vanden Bosch, Haynesworth. I mean, that line was sick, and I think that like brotherhood or that mentality. Of like, hey, we're doing this. That can't do anything but help a team. And I think all gas, no brakes is maybe the start of some of those kinds of things. Like, hey, we're part of something. Like if we're not all gas, no brakes. If I'm whatever, like making mistakes or dropping the football, I think that's the start of something. And we can only hope that it is wins and playoffs and Super Bowl.
Yeah. I think you're right. And, just to make a point, what is a good slogan without belief? It's absolutely nothing. It's just literally words on paper, on a banner, on a TV screen, on a wall. And the real key moment is if Coach Saleh and the rest of that coaching staff can impart in this roster as a whole a belief in those words that translates to actions. If we can do that, that's going to be crazy.
You remember when they asked Brian Callahan kind of like what his, like when he first came in? It's so funny to be in the all gas, no brakes era and him be like, resilience. It's like, oh, okay. Cool,
Yeah.
bro.
Well,
Thanks.
you know what? He wasn't wrong. We needed a heck of a lot of resilience. That's for sure. All right. So talking about which side of the ball, we both agree on offense. And I'm going to kick this to you. If you had to pick one single player on this team, offense or defense, that needs to be the captain, the leader of this killer instinct and this change in mentality, who do you think that is and why?
So, I mean, I think the obvious is, and he has already been evidenced by getting paid, Jeff Simmons. I think that's the why that defense did what it did last year. So I shudder to think what he does with Saleh and players on his side.
Yeah.
That being said, I do not believe he should be the guy. I think that falls squarely on Cam Ward's shoulders. I think he shows some of that in that after the game speech, after the victory speech. I think he is intense. Like when we watch him studying the playbook and watching tape and all that stuff in his spare time and meeting with the wide receivers, I think he has it, getting there at 5 a.m. We hear about it. He needs to find a way to resonate with the players around him, because it doesn't feel like, and I think that's a little bit of roster building. I think we're getting more of those people in. I can see where last year that probably didn't resonate with people. And again, I think it's top down and comes from the coaching and how they handle their business. Like if somebody's, I mean, at work, we always call it like necessary conflict. That's how you get better.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think Cam Ward I think we heard a story about him when he got to Miami and his wide receiver said, I'm catching balls from Lamar Jackson. We'll see if he throws you a touchdown, like that kind of thing. And that resonated, and that wide receiver showed up. Once we start getting more of those players that see that he has good intentions, which will probably translate into playoffs and Super Bowl and stats or whatever makes them people move. I think it has to be Cam Ward, and maybe that's the low hanging fruit. I think he's got what it takes, and I think it's a matter of getting people in here. But he needs to find a way to get it to resonate and ripple through that whole team.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on this one again. And you touched on a really solid point, because here's the thing for me, right? Jeffrey Simmons, I think, is the leader of this team. And I say that because he's been there. He's the veteran leader of this team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ask the locker room. I'm not there. I don't know who they would say the leader of the team is, but I think it's Jeffrey Simmons. And I think it's because he is unquestionably the most talented and most accolades of any player on that roster. And he also is one that shows leadership by his actions, which is massive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's shown it by staying in this organization through some bad times. Well, with that said, he's already going to do that. Jeff is already going to show up just like he did in a bad year last year that we just talked about, and he's going to perform. No matter what happens around him, he's going to perform. So I think in order to take the next evolution and the next step, I think you're right. I think it's got to be Cam Ward. And yeah, it is the low-hanging fruit, but it's the quarterback and it's the NFL. Every guy that you mentioned a minute ago, from Mahomes to Allen to Tom Brady, right? All of those guys are the guys that need that killer instinct in the fourth quarter when there's close games to do what? To win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you put it perfectly. You know, for those watching that have seen the Netflix special, The Quarterback, and watched all that Cam Ward footage, it was so much fun for me to watch it.
We need more of that stuff, man, because I would watch it on loop
all the time. All the time, because, you know, it's interesting looking back in hindsight, knowing the feelings as a fan that I felt watching those games, after the games, seeing the televised press conferences, right? And then you get the behind the scenes where you hear him in the locker room in Cleveland, what really happened. Because we all heard, oh, Cam needs to, learn how to celebrate a win, celebrate a win. And then you hear what he really said in the locker room. I was like, man,
Mhm.
that's great.
That's
And
accountability is all I heard. I heard him being, "Hey, be
yeah,
accountable for yourself. Whatever, we won, 4th quarter, that was sloppy. We gotta be better than that. We gotta go whistle to whistle." And that's all I saw. It's crazy to me that it got twisted up a little bit on him.
exactly. And the line that he said in that special that I loved was when they were showing the Titans locker room and everybody was celebrating. He's like, it's just one win. Like, why are we acting like some of these guys act like they haven't won before, you know? And, I get it, but that's a great mentality. So I agree with you, man. It has to come from him. And the thing is we saw really good growth in the last half of last season from Cam, even through some bad balls that didn't get picked off and some lucky things,
Mhm.
but we saw some growth. And he's got to grow that even more. And obviously, he has to have talent around him. And the Titans have spent the most money that they've ever spent. I think I saw that this was the first time that we were number one in free agent spending in the NFL in an offseason. So who's going to answer that, Ghost? Who's going to answer that if wins don't come? It's going to fall on the quarterback.
Mhm.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. It's going to fall on him. So
Yep.
he has to take that step. And an interesting context for comparison that I want to bring up here is last year's 2025 Chicago Bears. So we talked about the Titans in 2025 being 0-7 when trailing 10 points or more going in the fourth quarter. The 2025 Bears in Caleb Williams' second season, which, hello, right? We got Cam Ward's second season coming up. They were 6-1 in such games, trailing in the fourth quarter. 6-1. And for anybody that paid attention to the Bears or the whole NFL and saw their games last season, that propelled them to momentum, to developing a belief in that killer instinct that they could win these improbable games in the fourth quarter and going into a playoff. So, there's a lot of similarities in my mind between how the Chicago Bears built their rebuild through Ben Johnson, through the GM polls over there, through some of their drafting and free agent acquisitions. And I said this on a previous pod. It feels similar to what we're doing here, to be honest. So I think that would be an excellent man. Caleb, he's a good quarterback. I don't love him as much as some people. I think he had like 50% completion percentage or something horrible, 50 something percent for the whole year, but yet they still had a successful season. But what does that show you? He knew when to turn it on, how to turn it on, and how to close games. So is that something did you watch much Bears last year? I hadn't talked to you about this. I mean, do you
Here
think
and
that's what
there,
you need to see
mainly
out
the
of Cam?
playoffs. Yeah, mainly the playoffs. Obviously, you see highlights and stuff like that. Um, and I think you're right. I think what you get with him is an extremely like volatile player that and not volatile in the way of like Will Levis.
Yeah.
Volatile in the way of like you can be like, wow, that guy's really talented. Like, wow, I can't believe he threw that. Wow, I can't believe he got
Yeah.
that. Like he's got some serious wow in his like playmaking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
However, I agree. I think Cam Ward is like that also.
Right. Right.
He slings some stuff that I'm like, what did he just do that for? And like, oh, he caught it. And then I was like, all is
Yeah.
forgiven.
Yes.
So, but
Yeah.
no, I think I think we got the guy. I've literally been optimistic about so many quarterbacks with the Titans. I remember backing Jake Locker for way too long. I wanted that guy to be so good. And
Yeah.
like even
Me
when they
too.
brought in Mettenberger, I was like, duh, we're good. Obviously, we're going to be good, but it's never felt so real. You know what I mean? I knew I was fluffing myself up a little bit as far as like puffing my chest out on things that like weren't real then, and it just seems like what we saw last year. That some of the things he did in the situation he was in. I mean, they're still one of the youngest teams in the league.
Yeah.
There's like 100% room for development. I think we got a coaching staff that can now start to develop them. Kudos to Mike McCoy for keeping the ship afloat and not ruining Cam Ward outright. You know what I
True.
mean? But
No,
that's
totally.
about all I can say about him because man, there was some times where I just wanted him to go for it.
Go for
Maybe
it,
we could have
Mike.
won some of those. You know what I mean? So
Well, it all worked out because I heard, and I don't know if you've heard, but I heard that because of some of Mike McCoy's actions, we actually have an Ohio State wide receiver.
and you want to talk about Killer Instinct, man. That guy, he closes on his catches. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Also, he's
think
shown a great deal of leadership just in the offseason so far. So,
he has. I'm excited about this rookie class. I'm excited about this team. I think that in reality, when you look at the NFL, every game is a dogfight. Every game is
oh
close.
yeah, across the NFL.
You're going to have some of them that maybe you catch a team on a bad day, somebody has a bad performance, and it gets out of hand. But for the most part, these games are going to be winnable for each team moving into the second half. So, what do you think? What do you think is a reasonable? Let's say if we had 7 games again this season, we were 0-7 last. Let's say we have 7 games at the end of 2026. What would be a reasonable expectation for you on that win loss, going from 0-7 to what? To show that we've actually identified something that we can close and have a killer instinct.
I think 5. I think 5's a good number. I mean, if we win 5 of those, we have 8 wins last year. You know what I mean? So it's like what's not there's like what's that term? Like a placebo effect to it when you start winning. That it's
Yeah.
going to impact other things. It's just hard to learn. It's hard to feel confident. It's hard to build any kind of like groove or anything like that as a quarterback or a wide receiver. Or I mean, we couldn't sustain drives, so they didn't get a lot of field time in a lot of instances because they were punting
So
or
true.
kicking super long field goals. Your team, you have to be out there. You have to stack the W's. And when I say stack W's, maybe that's a reception. Maybe that's a first down on a 3rd and short instead of kicking a field goal. Like you have to start
Absolutely.
stacking those up. And that's when your team's really going to kind of blow up and start to know how to overcome those situations. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't have a lot of opportunities to do that last year. And especially since they faced like, I don't even remember how many at the time top 10 defenses.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was a gauntlet.
Yeah.
It was a gauntlet last year in that schedule. And we still did what we did in regards to staying close moving into the fourth quarter. I don't want to belabor the point, but I thought about this earlier and I had to mention it because I just, again, going back to the Netflix special, what stood out to me so much, having PTSD of the Callahan era, I don't remember what game it was. I wish I did. It was early in the season, right? And it was after the Bronco game where Cam got sacked. And it was showing Cam in the pregame. And he goes up to Callahan in the pregame and he's like, all right, coach, going to put it in my hands today? Because Cam kept like, let me play the game, right? Let me play the game. Believe in me. Like, put the game in my hands. Kind of, you're going to put it in my hands today? And Callahan's like, we'll see. Yeah. And it was just like, I was just thinking, what a horrible thing for a coach to say. I could never see Saleh having that type of response because if you have a young dude, whether you think he might make mistakes, has learning growth or whatever, dude, man, blow him up right then. Yeah, absolutely, buddy. It's in your hands. Do the old hardball, knock him on the pads, like get in his face and tell him you're going to kill this today. And it really brought so much into hindsight to me of maybe what Cam was dealing with mentally as an individual in his first season, rookie season. Man, it was tough. It was tough. But I think that
not even have known, like what you just mentioned was a problem. You know what I mean? Because you see how Cam in the documentary, Cam was talking like positively about Brian Callahan.
Yeah.
We're playing football. You know what I mean? We're not playing pool or something here. It's not like, oh yeah, man. Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe someday. You do got to kind of, I mean, you do have like Baker Mayfield moments where you're headbutting people with no helmet and stuff. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
it's just a different dynamic. And I don't think you see fighters, you see all these like intense types of sports, like they're building the energy and the mentality and all that stuff that they need in the locker room. You know what I mean? And then they're coming to the game because the sport or the sport requires that mentality, that attitude, that nastiness. Jeff Simmons talks about it all the time, flipping the switch on. You know what I mean? He says a different person when he's playing football. And I just don't think like we're not playing tiddlywinks. And I think a lot of times that felt like
it did.
The most intense thing we ever saw from him was when he cussed out on air Will Levis, which you don't do that to your new quarterback either. You know what I mean? So
No.
it's like there's a
Yeah.
skill around that, and I think Vrabel was good at it. As much as I was so frustrated with him in the back couple years of his tenure, but I think Salah has what it takes, and maybe that's just overly optimistic. But
Yeah.
he seems like a sharp guy. His players played for him for the Jets. He had a very good
100%.
defense. You know what I
Yes.
mean? He was
Yeah.
dealt an offense that I don't think he was necessarily prepared or wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Recycled Aaron Rodgers or whatever. Aaron Rodgers blows his Achilles up on
And Zach Wilson.
yeah, Zach Wilson. So, man, I think I see a lot of promise in what we got going on right now.
Yeah, I think it's a new era, man, and I think that having a team that shows that instinct to be able to fight, to be able to stack wins, like you said, on a play-by-play basis, I think that's going to translate to the fan base. You know, I've been going to these games for so many years, and then also watching the games on TV, where Nissan Stadium is either full of the opposing team's fans, or there's just so many empty seats. Now, I don't really see that happening. I think we're going to have a better turnout this season. It's the last season for old Nissan, and there's so much hype going around this year. However, I think having a team that embodies that, not just a player like Jeffrey Simmons, but a team, I think that's what translates to the fan base the most. The win-loss column matters, but if you're a fan of a team and you're rooting for a team, whether you're sitting on your couch or you're sitting on the 30-yard line, you want to see a team that has a chance, that fighting chance, and when they get knocked down, they're going to get back up and fight again. So that's something that, as a fan personally, I've been missing in watching this Titans team, and that has stuck out to me. So I do think that we're on the right track. I think we're getting there. So I'm excited about it. 2026,
Absolutely.
baby. I think we're going to turn that 0-7 around. That goose egg's going
We're
to stop. I would love to just be ahead going into the fourth quarter in every game. Let's just eliminate this statistic variable all around. Huh?
Right? Every
single one. Every single one. I mean, we could lose a couple, but like, let's be ahead going into the fourth quarter every game.
Well, and as a fan, I obviously you're like super dejected after you lose a game like that. But there's often times where like 6 or 7 o'clock rolls around that evening, and I'm like chilling out, and I was like, man, that was a fun game to watch. Like I just want to watch fun football also. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like I know we're not going to win a Super Bowl every year, and
exactly.
So just give me a product that's worth watching. You know what I mean? Like
part of the path, man.
Like, make me proud to wear this woodblock font and this like. Got me again.
You did it again.
This logo on my chest. You know what I mean? And right now, I'm so proud to wear it. Like people are jealous. Like, oh man, that's nice. Man, that's a nice jersey or whatever. I'm ready for it, man. I'm going to be at a game this year. It'll be my first home game. So I hope everybody shows up, because I'm going to show up, and it's going to be a blast.
It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a blast. Well, you got anything else to say to everybody watching at home before we close this one out?
Nope. That's pretty much it. We just need Cam Ward and all of them to flip the switch, as Jeff Simmons says.
Well, you know, one closing point about the Netflix doc is that Cam was talking about Kobe, right? He played basketball growing up. He loved Kobe Bryant, loved that mentality. So I'll tell you, if anybody can do it, I believe this young man can. And I think we're all equally as excited to see him try to do it. Let's just put it that way. Hey, and welcome back from vacation, man.
Yeah.
The fans probably didn't know it, but you're on vacation. So welcome back. This is our first one.
Good to be back.
Refreshed and renewed. All right. Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to this episode. I forget what episode number this one's going to be, but we appreciate you guys so much, as always, tuning into the Titans sector. Tell us in the comments what you guys think about this killer instinct mentality. Do you guys think that we're going to recapture some of what we have lost? And who do you think is responsible for leading the charge for turning this around? Do you think it's solely rest on the shoulders of Robert Saleh and the coaching staff? Or do you think it's somebody like Cam Ward, Jeff Simmons, or somebody we didn't even mention that needs to lead this change in the 2026 season? You guys can find us on X, as always, at The Titan Sector, on TikTok at the.titan.sector as well. We're always engaging with our community on both of those platforms, and you can find our new episode pod drops every Monday and Thursday at 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. respectively on the time zone. So thank you guys as always for tuning in. We appreciate your support, and we will catch you guys next time.